Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Jenkins. Thank you for joining us today for the daily devotion from the office here at His Grace Ministry. Please be so kind as to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, a like on Facebook. Share this to your page if you'd be so kind. If you're watching it through another social media ministry, such as Snapchat or whatever there are out there, please let us know. We're trying to get the word out as best we can. And at 70 years of age, I seem to find myself a little bit limited in modern technology. And I do thank you for all your comments. I believe we've got the glare off of my glasses now, so that's a good thing. My wife helped with that. This week, we have been looking at stirring up the gift of God that is within us. The Apostle Paul told young Timothy in 2 Timothy 1 in verse number 6, he said, "Remember, Timothy, and then stir up the gift of God that's within you." And the illustration here, of course, is that of an old fireplace, one that has at one time had a raging fire in it. Now it's gone down to just embers, and it needs some new kindling, and it needs some stirring to take the poker and to rearrange the coals, and they'll become a roaring fire again as long as the fire has not gone completely out. And then you put more wood on it. And so that's what Paul's telling Timothy to do here. He said, "Timothy, I know you're a good pastor. I know you're doing great, but this one thing is what you need to do. You need to stir up the gift of God that's within you." And this week we've been talking about doing that very thing. One of the things that we shared with you yesterday is that if we have willful sin in our life, that has a way of putting out the fire, where Jesus said in Matthew's gospel, when you light a light, you don't put it under a bed, you don't put it under a bushel, you let the light on a candlestick so that all that passes by can see the light. And that's what you and I need to do. We are the light of the world, according to the Lord Jesus Christ. We need to be shining for the glory of God. We don't need to let things come in our life that would take away from the light shining for others to see for the glory of God. I would say that not only willful sin will begin to hide your light, but I would say to you that if you neglect your fire, that it can go down to a smoldering ash and perhaps even go out. Not that you're lost again, just that you don't have the presence of God and the power of God. You're not drawing nigh unto God, and because of that, He's not drawing nigh unto you. So the fire needs to be stoked. The illustration that Paul gives here is perhaps not one that we're real familiar with in this day and time of modern technology and central heating, air conditioning, and all of that kind of stuff. But Timothy would be. He would know all about that fireplace. He would know that if you left it alone, that if you didn't get up and stoke it, that eventually it would go out. And then you'd go back and you'd try to stoke those old dead embers that had turned to nothing more than just black charcoal. And there was no fire there. There's no spark there. And so you'd have to start off all over again. And such is the case in many a Christian's life. There was a day when we burned brightly for the glory of God, but we allowed negative influences, willful sin, the bed, and the bushel to come into our life. And when they came into our life, they became more predominant in our life and more preeminent in our life than the presence of the Lord. And the fire that was once raging within us slowly began to go out. And now it's an ember. And it's going to take a move of God to get the fire going again. The neglect thing is one I want to share with you today. I shared with you yesterday, there was a time when Linda and I were there in that upstairs apartment, and she would say something around 2 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock perhaps. "Bill, it's getting cold in here. You need to do something." And I had a choice. I could either snuggle closer to her, which was my desire, so because she was warm, I could be warm, or I could get up and deal with the fire. And I had both of those things. There were days when I would get up and I would stoke the fire, and it would become a raging inferno again. And then when it was time at 6 o'clock to get up and go to our workplaces, the room was warm. However, there were those days when I was just too sorry, for lack of a better word, to get up out of the bed. And I would lay there under those quilts, and I would do my best to stay warm. And when 6 o'clock came and the alarm clock went off and it was time to get up, the room was cold and it was very dark. And that was because of my neglect. I had let the fire go out in the stove, and now I had to start all over again. I had to work so very, very hard to get it going again. The fuel for the fire had all been used up while I slept. And now more fuel is going to have to be placed into the fire. More kindling and back to the very beginning all over again. I find that to be the case so many times in my Christian life. I find that sometimes I get sidetracked. I get emphasis on other things rather than on the main thing, which is winning people to Jesus Christ and worshiping the Lord. And sometimes doing the business of church, you can be so very, very active in a church and still be so very, very far from God. So you have to get back to that place where the fire is burning within you. Quench not the spirit, Paul said. Don't let them put it out. Don't let willful sin put it out. Don't let neglect put it out. I'm reminded of the words of an old song by Jim Reeves. It says, "How long has it been since you talked with the Lord and you told him your heart's hidden secrets? How long since you prayed? How long since you stayed on your knees till the light shone through?" In other words, you just stayed there until God showed up. How long has it been since your mind felt at ease? How long since your heart knew no burden? Can you call him your friend? How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you? How long has it been since you knelt by your bed and you prayed to the Lord up in heaven? How long since you knew that he had answered you and would keep you the long night through? How long has it been since you woke with the dawn and you felt this day is worth living? Can you call him your friend? How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you? And so it is with our hearts. How they can burn for the glory of God one day and be so cold the next. You see, we are in desperate need of more fuel and a stirring up of that which once burned so brightly. The fuel is for our fire is time spent alone with God. Bible reading, Bible study, prayer time. There are no substitutes for these. This is the most important times and opportunities of your life, but they are passing rapidly away. We, as the people of God, fail to see the need to draw near to our God. The fire that once burned so brightly and thousands were saved is now burning low and needs to be stirred once again. Oh, that God would put a fire within our heart that could not be quenched, and that we would begin to see the altars filled again and souls being saved. Oh, dear friend, do you not realize the majority of our world is headed to a devil's hell, and the only answer is what God has done for you and I. We are to be light unto this world. Don't let Satan put your light out. Don't let neglect or willful sin come and smother your light. Stir it up for the glory of God. Our time is gone once again. Please join us here tomorrow for the conclusion of this week's devotions on stirring up the gift of God. And until then, may the Lord bless and keep you is my prayer.